Hey, Hawkeye fans, Chad Leistikow of the Des Moines Register, along with Tyler Tachman of the Des Moines Register, recovering from recapping Iowa's 18 to 16 home loss to the Oregon Ducks, ninth ranked team in the country. Wow, what a full game of stories, Tyler. Certainly, the ultimate heartbreak yet again at Kinnick Stadium, falling on a final field goal from 39 yards out. What was the story of the game in your mind?
To me, it felt very similar to the Indiana game where Iowa imposed their style on a high-powered offense. It was low scoring, it was ugly, it was physical, but there was just again like the Indiana game, there was those 4 to 5 plays that you look back on and like think about how it really swung things. And on one hand, it's I don't know how much people want to take moral victories at this point, but you've now twice in Kinnick Stadium you've played elite teams very close and almost knocked them off. Now you haven't been able, so the gap isn't big really at this point between where Iowa is and some of these elite teams when they're playing them at home, but there's just been too many small, sometimes bigger, consequential errors that they've made, and like these were the ones that outside of the fact that Iowa had a really tough time stopping the run, these are the plays that to me define the game. So you have the bad long snap that ended in a safety. That was a heads up play by Reese Daking because it could have been a touchdown, and he basically saved Iowa's 5 points. Iowa puts together a great drive in the first half to score a touchdown, and then they let Oregon get a field goal at the end of the first half, which was sort of like the Indiana game. You had a bad start to the first half and a bad finish to the first half. Then the Weegan fumble was just a gut punch because Iowa was driving, and you've hoped that at least they would have gotten 3 points out of that, maybe seven, and then Oregon goes the other way and turns that into a field goal. So that was a potentially like 10-point swing, maybe a little less than that, but it was still a major swing. Then the failed 2-point conversion, that one looms large because the field goal would have just tied the game instead of winning it. And then just the fact that Iowa's defense after that, really heroic final drive by Mark Gronowski and Iowa's offense that you feel good about. This is Iowa's defense with a chance to shut the door like they did against Penn State and were unable to do so.
Yeah, my mind is racing here because there's so much to talk about. Um, let's start with kind of the points of disappointment from this game. It's there are so many there's so many spots where Iowa just kind of shot itself in the foot yet again. Started a big game poorly with the punt thing, like you said. By the way, the explanation on that was wet footballs, I guess. But we didn't get to talk to the long snapper or anything. But yeah, certainly that was not good. And just so you, by the way, so that's a minus 39-yard rush that goes against Iowa's team rushing totals. So Iowa ends up only rushing for 101 yards now. So technically, I guess 140, counting sacks. But you pointed out the Oregon run game, 261 yards on the ground, 7.2 per carry. That's where the game really was decided. And the fact that you said Iowa kind of imposed its will in that way, you're right. Offensively, they kind of did slow things down. Iowa only had 3 possessions in the second half of offense, and it was a nice long drive for the Weegan fumble. And then the drive that resulted in Drew Stevens' school record 58-yard field goal. And then the touchdown drive, 93-yard drive. I mean, talk about what should have been the thing we're talking about from here until eternity. A 12-play, 93-yard drive that ends with a euphoric Mark Gronowski fourth down, game on the line, touchdown run, like a totally perfect call, a perfect execution by your senior quarterback. But ultimately, it's hard to put it on the defense in special teams in a way when you only give up 18 points. But frankly, if I was to rank kind of where this loss is pinned on, it's one, defense, two, special teams. Like the offense, I feel like did its job. They did enough.
I mean, I don't know. The offense still only scored 16. I felt like it took them too long to get things going. That's like they weren't able to really get in a rhythm. And then, I mean, forget the fact that Iowa made progress. Like none of that matters on that one drive if you fumble it. So I don't know. I thought the defense played well. Or besides the fact, like to me, not being able to stop the run was one of the most surprising
Well,
parts
that's
of the
why I
game.
say defense is one. I mean, 261 yards rushing. That's just, I don't care
Yeah,
who you're playing. That's unacceptable.
yeah, but they also only gave up, 16 points because you take away the safety. So, but that was surprising to me because we knew that Oregon had a really good rushing attack. But the way that Iowa's been able to stop the run, you felt like they'd be able to contain them a little bit more than they were able to today, and that wasn't the case. And then those mistakes just add up. I mean, playing a team like Oregon, playing a team like Indiana, the margin for error is very thin, and you just those things add up, and you have to play a near perfect game, and Iowa didn't do that. And the Weegan fumble kind of brings back memories a little bit of the Iowa State game. I mean, when he kind of slips and Mark
Right.
Gronowski throws a pick on it, like those just super like untimely. I mean, all three of Iowa's losses this season are like what ifs. Is like the what if game. Like, what if Mark Gronowski doesn't throw that pick? What if Kyle Conradi, misses a field goal? What if Drew Stevens makes the field goal, to give Iowa the lead against Indiana? And then the same thing with this. Like, what if there's no safety early in the game, and
What if
Iowa
Iowa
makes
makes a 2 point
Iowa
conversion?
makes the 2 point? Like that was huge. And Iowa's not been good in 2 point. I don't know exactly what they are, but they haven't. I feel like they haven't been good at 2 point conversions this season. So there's just all that stuff adds up. And are you looking up the 2 point thing now?
Yeah. Yeah. Go
Okay,
ahead.
keep going. Yeah,
No.
and,
Okay.
and
So in your defense, Iowa gives up only one touchdown
yeah, that's what
to
I'm saying. Like,
Oregon, an
yeah,
Oregon
like,
team. But at the same time, I mean, they were moving up and down the field constantly. So, but we have high standards for the defense. Like covering this team, you expect the defense to come through. And Xavier Wampa said that after the game. Like we want we want the game on our shoulders. And frankly, Oregon, the Oregon writers were to our left, and like, why aren't they calling timeouts? Like they were kind of casually going up the field steadily, and then zing, there's that 20 some yard pass. Perfect throw. Man coverage. They were trying to find that against TJ Hall. It wasn't. I mean, TJ couldn't have been covering it any better. The ball just kind of slipped through, and that put him in field goal range ultimately. So credit to Oregon. Credit to Oregon for really delivering in tough conditions. Tough crowd on that final drive. They executed pretty much flawlessly. Cody Hills had the 2 point. Some 2 point stats. I can't verify that these are true, but he's a good guy, and I trust him on this. With the fail late against Oregon, he says Iowa is 5 for 23 on 2 point conversions over the last 10 seasons. 5 for 23. 1 for 8 over the last 5, and now 0 for 3 this season. So there you go.
I feel like and Oregon did a good job of limiting Iowa in the run game, and I know the punt impacts the stats, but Iowa, they just Mark Gronowski's passing, and there were a few plays where I was able to get things going, but I feel like Oregon did just a really good job of kind of limiting the running game. And because when teams aren't able to stop Iowa's running game, it's just they become a good offense. But they did a good job of kind of slowing them down. And I mean, yeah, that was a huge by Mark Gronowski in the offense to go the length of the field. But Mark Gronowski got off to a bad start. I mean, he looked out of rhythm to start the game. And you look back to the Indiana game again as a parallel where he throws the pick on the first drive. Look, I mean, if you want to look at this at a half glass full type view, like Iowa lost in 3 ranked games 2 seasons ago, a combined 92-0. And like that was Michigan, Tennessee, and Penn State. None of those were at Kinnick Stadium. They were either neutral or away. But I mean, Iowa's been there in the fight. I'm taking if you want to look at this from a positive perspective, like Iowa is right there against Indiana, who's still undefeated, barely got past Penn State today, against the Oregon team who's in the college football playoff hunt. Like they're right there, but it's the minor details. It's those little things that, I mean, you talk about the defense making one stop and this being, the biggest win at Kinnick since, however, Mark Gronowski never having to buy a drink in Iowa City ever again. Like, I mean, they're very close, but they're knocking on the door of breaking through, but they're just not there yet.
Yeah, and that's where, that's where obviously the disappointment comes for Iowa fans. Totally understand it. You kind of got some national love this week. You're not going to lose some of that, respect. I mean, Iowa has earned a lot of respect, no question about it, with the way it has played two top 10 teams so competitively, Indiana and Oregon, but ultimately, don't get the wins. And we haven't mentioned playoff, but, there was a lot of talk about, the playoff begins now. You win these 4 games, you're in the playoff. And just like that, you feel like, Mark Gronowski runs into the end zone there. Oh my God, this is happening. And then now the playoff really, I mean, it's not realistic at all at this point. I mean, it's probably like a 0.01% chance. So done, that part's done. But at the same time, and I'm going to be writing about this. I'm going to try to frame it. I'm still processing how I'm going to write it exactly, but at the same time, like, what are we going to remember this season for? There's still a lot that can happen. And I feel like you just don't, at this point now, this season, it's a good team. I think we can agree. This is a good team. It's made too many mistakes to get to the playoff at this point. It's just, so they were close, but just couldn't get over the top. Okay. Like, you had a bad luck injury against Indiana, the screen pass by Hank Brown, all this stuff. But, you don't want to end up, I don't know, like 8-4, then lose a bowl game, 8-5, like you just don't want it to be like an 8-win season that you're like, man, what a disappointing year. But, you look back, and I know that, again, this is sort of every fan or every whatever, every observer can have his or her own viewpoint of how they grade the season. But the way that Iowa is going to have to look at this, and everyone can choose how they want to look at it or not, is you look back at some of these Iowa seasons in the past, like 2019. There was a lot of really fun stuff that happened that year. They went 10-3 that year. They crushed USC in the Holiday Bowl, and people kind of fondly remember that 2019 season. Yeah, there was some close losses. Michigan 10-3, it was a frustrating loss. Penn State 17-12. But you had you felt like that was a good team, and they finished strong. They finished strong. So that's kind of what's at task here for Iowa. Can it finish strong? And we'll see. I mean, they're probably not going to drop much in the rankings, Tyler, maybe a little. But they've got really quality losses all of a sudden, and now they get a chance now to face another ranked team. They're 0-12 in their last 12 against ranked teams, but now they get another one in USC. So what do you think about kind of the rest of the way?
I think 9-3 in a bowl, 9-3 in the regular season and a bowl win would be a successful season. I don't think not everyone would agree with me on that, but like looking at Iowa's schedule entering the season, when you had 3 teams that were in last season's college football playoff, like, to me, 9-3 would qualify as a success. And I picked them to win 7 games in the regular season. I didn't, I guess that's still on the table at this point, but you can still, I think, make this a successful season. And it's not going to be an easy task going on the road against USC. The last 2 games of the regular season are a little bit more manageable, but you can still, I think, kind of write the narrative of how this season is remembered. I think there will be an element to it of missed opportunities and minor details that led to heartbreaking losses, but you can still make this a team that is remembered for maybe getting the quarterback play in the right direction, for the resilience that they showed. And but going back to the conversation about the bad snap, I mean, that's where Iowa really misses Luke Elkin, who, for those that don't know, that's the type of position where people really only you get major exposure if you don't do your job right. If you do your job right, then there's just not a whole lot of people that are going to know you. And Luke Elkin was a really good long snapper for Iowa, was a stalwart on Iowa special teams, and I felt like kind of coming into this season that was a bigger loss, and maybe a bigger unknown at long snapping than people probably realized. And this is the type of moment where that just bites you pretty bad, and it continues to be what's been like just a roller coaster of a special teams uh, of special teams production for Iowa this season, because there's been some really big highs with the way Caden Weegan has played in returning touchdowns, in the way that, I mean, even Drew Stevens, we haven't mentioned him, but him knocking through the 58-yarder, that kind of moved the needle in Iowa's direction against Oregon. But it's been boom or bust way too often for Iowa special teams, which you would consider to be steady. And that's just another moment where, that plays a major factor in a game that is decided by 2 points. I mean, that's 2 points right there. And credit again to Reese Dakin for making sure that it wasn't 5 more than that. But those, the special teams it's had some great moments this season, but it's also had some real head scratching moments. Are you there?
Sorry, I was muted. Let's go to 3-word headlines.
All
We've got
right.
like 600 responses already. It's close to 600, so a lot of
We want to go
opinions on
through
this.
all of them?
Yeah, let's do it. No.
All right. All right.
RJ, I'm gonna just blast some out here, okay, and then you can pick on what you want to talk about. RJ Campiano says mother ducking duck. Zach Wondrum says finish a tackle. Allison Brune says fricking missed tackles. Missed tackles seem to be really a topic of the discourse of people watching on TV, and certainly I'm going to watch that on DVR Monday for sure. But those Oregon running backs are very, 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 very good, and you got to give them a lot of credit for the way they ran. And don't forget, it was wet and slippery out there. It's a little harder to make those types of tackles. Not making excuses, but I'm just saying, like, that was certainly, it was noticeable, but also like, kind of understand some of it too. What else? Joe Zimmerman, game of inches. I've highlighted several of them here. Tim Mernon, road graded at home. I like that one because it did feel like, and there was one in the comments here in our YouTube chat about, our Oregon out Iowa-ing Iowa. That's felt like kind of what it was. It almost was like they came in here and played a little bit of Iowa football.
I mean, same thing with Indiana, the way
Yeah,
that
fair.
they were able to, I mean, Iowa did a good job of making it an ugly game again. That felt like the formula for Iowa to win, and they just weren't able to finish the job. And I mean, Oregon has a really good rushing attack. I just was surprised at the fact that Iowa wasn't able to slow them down more. Like, I think it would have been unrealistic to think that they were just going to totally smother them, but the way that they were just able to consistently pick up chunk yardage, to me, that was probably one of the more surprising parts of the game. Is I felt like Oregon won in the trenches, and that's where Iowa. I mean, you look at the Minnesota game, the Wisconsin game, like Iowa just demolished those teams in the trenches, and I felt like Oregon held the edge in that area.
Yeah, look at Oregon's rushing stats, just the individual. Okay, Noah Whittington, 17 for 118. Jordan Davison, 8 for 52. Dante Moore, 4 for 46 with that long 49-yarder. And then Dier Hill Jr., 7 for 45. Oregon was without two of its better receivers, and still, they were able to lean on the run game. to win this one. How about this for a little stat, Tyler? Iowa had the 2 longest pass plays of the game.
That's yeah.
To DJ Vaname, 40 yards late on the final drive, and then of course the 38-yarder to Jacob Gill. Oregon's longest pass play was actually that 24-yarder at the very end of the game to Malik Benson against TJ Hall. So that was,
And you're
isn't that crazy?
Yeah, no, when it's like if you had said that Iowa has the 2 longest pass plays of the game, you're thinking like,
That's all
"Oh,
you need.
like like Iowa contain Oregon's passing game that well." And again, that I think it was in the trenches the way Iowa
Mm-hmm.
wasn't able to control the game in on the offensive and defensive line, and just the fact that I mean it was pretty ugly for those that weren't at Kinnick. It was raining. It was pretty cold. So that played a factor, and I think you could see early on in the game it was difficult for the receivers to catch it and stuff. But
Yeah.
I felt like that would favor Iowa, right? Like a heavy running the ball type game, like that.
Mm-hmm.
In my mind, that would have played in the hands of Iowa, but that wasn't the case.
Yeah. Couple more here. Brett says bridesmaid, comma, never bride. Fair. Jeffrey the Greek, just too sloppy. Um, uh, Hawkeye in Maryland says that safety hurt. Hawk guy Matt, sorry, 8-4. Lisa Dondlinger, heartbroken and devastated. And back to my friend Cody Hills. He says, I'm dead inside. So there you go. There's a collection of 3-word headlines so far. If I come across any other gems, I will definitely throw them out there. But, people are going to feel this pain, I think, for a while. And so are the players. And I do think it's going to be hard to get back up off the mat and go face a really good USC team out in California, basically 6.5 days from now.
And you just wonder, like, when is Iowa going to have a chance like this again at home? Like, I know you're going on the road to USC.
Mm-hmm.
There's no guarantee that Iowa's not going to go there and get blown out. Like, USC is a good team. And you just wonder, Iowa's had, like, 2 golden opportunities against Indiana and now against Oregon to knock off premier opponents, to take a stand in the national spotlight, to show that they can finally beat a ranked team, which they haven't done since beating Penn State in 2021. And you're just wondering a little bit of like, when is that signature moment coming for Iowa, and when will they have a chance to get back there? Because I think that's kind of the worry with this, is that you had it right there in front of you twice this season, and you haven't been able to come through. Like, when is that moment going to come again? And if so, when are you finally going to be able to break through?
Here's a couple more just for fun. Sir Houseman says impossible 2-pointers. It's true. Kyle Stewart says wet, wild, and woeful. And then I like this one. Lance Herbold says quacked the code. So there you go. What were the Oregon players doing? Do you have any idea over in the north end zone after the game? They were coming over to like taunt the fans. It almost
Yeah, it looked like there was a group of them going over to just
yeah.
basically, yeah, I think
I don't know, but it looked like some of the Oregon people were like pulling them back, like don't do that. So it was like a group of about 12 of them.
yeah,
Anyway, it was a kind of an unfortunate look for Oregon because that was a hard fought game. I mean, and the crowd was great.
yeah, it was the crowd was good, and I mean that's where you wonder, and like, what does Iowa do in a neutral field against in this type? Because I just feel like the crowd plays such a big factor in Iowa being able to stay in the game against Oregon and Indiana. So again, like, when are you going to get that shot again and be able to finally make it?
Well, that should do it for now, I guess. I don't really have any great encouraging words for you guys out there or anything, but just it was a feel the pain for a while. I'll throw this out there. It's probably going to be my column too. But this felt like the 2015 Big Ten championship game. Okay, I asked Kirk about that afterwards. It's not exactly the same, but you think back to Beathard to Tavon Smith for 85 yards. Like that moment for me, seeing that left to right touchdown to take the lead in a game that was a slog. Mark Gronowski going into the end zone. It felt like a Beathard to Smith moment. And then you remember what happened, obviously, was pain. you see the other team just inch its way down the field and take the win in the final minute with a really painful drive and a really tight window throw. There was a couple of those on that 22 play drive back in 2015. But I'm not trying to bring up bad memories, but I'm just saying that's how close this was, and that's kind of how this feels. And I feel like there's going to need to be some recovery time. And I don't like the fact that Iowa's going to California now next week, and we remember what happened out in California to end the 2015 season. So I guess I don't have like positive words, but no, it just I understand what I'm saying is I understand how it hurts, and I think it could hurt for the players too. It is hurting for the players too, and they're going to have to recover from this. We'll see what they're made of.
I'll provide some encouraging
There you
words
go.
since you kind of dampened the mood
I
here.
did, yeah.
But so I think the frustrating and encouraging part, they're both at the same time, is that Iowa was so close. Like, you can be encouraged by the fact that, hey, these were some elite teams that they went up against. It could have gone a lot worse. And you might not want to hear that at this point, but I thought there was a real chance that Oregon could have blown Iowa out. Same thing against Indiana, and that didn't happen. But the fact that you can feel that pain of a really heart-wrenching loss, it just shows that Iowa is there. And you might not want to hear that it's a moral victory, what have you, but like, Iowa's not that far away. They're just gonna, I think the offense needs to get a little bit better. There's been progress, and then you just need to find a way through those kind of plays that can swing the momentum of the game. You need to find a way to clean those up. But they're there. They're right there. And some people might look at that as a negative or a positive, but they're not far out right now.
One last three-word headline from Paul Borchardt in the comments says Iowa beats Iowa. So there you go. There were some mistakes. It's kind of been the story of the year, just a few little mistakes. Hawks 6-3 now, 4-2 in the Big Ten. That's a chance to go to 7-3 next Saturday at USC, which beat Northwestern last night. So that game is in the books. Chad Leistikow, Tyler Tachman. I guess we'll talk to you, I don't know, Tuesday. We'll talk to you Tuesday. How's that sound? Take care.